Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary. Happy Tuesday, happy football week, NFL week. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. So, coming up on the program, this one's all NFL preview, baby. We are on the eve of our NFL preview officially wrapping up, and so today the focus is on the Nope, I don't think that's the right lighting either. One more. There we go. The focus today is on difference makers for every team across the NFL. Who are the guys who really shift or move the needle in the National Football League? That is it. Tomorrow will be a two-parter. We're going to look at AFC win totals and NFC win totals, and we'll give Super Bowl picks and all of that. And then Thursday, it's game day, baby. Gonna be a great day. So that's what's coming up for the rest of the week. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're just going to go alphabetically by team, not by player. I did not have the time to organize that in the slightest. So let's get into it now. We will start with the Arizona Cardinals. Their difference maker is Kyler Murray. And for difference maker, I look at a guy who, like, there are a few different ways to look at it, I think. But mainly, if this guy went to a lot of other teams, or what was taken away from this team for any reason, would it really move the needle? I came up with this a few years ago when looking at you can see the team behind me, the Calgary Flames, and they would make a couple moves at the deadline. It's okay that they've added some depth, and then you would see it play out, and it's like, oh well, they didn't actually move the needle a whole lot. They just kind of shuffled the deck chairs around. So that is kind of where this came from. And so, like, obviously, Kyler Murray is the first one here. If he gets moved from Arizona to Kansas City, it's not moving the needle a whole lot. But if he gets moved away from Arizona for whatever reason, it moves the needle significantly. And then you could get into the semantic argument of, well, then that's every quarterback. And so I tried to have it not be that way, although looking at it, it's that way a lot. But anyway, Kyler Murray is the lone, I think, difference maker on this team. Honorable mention to Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think could get there, probably even by the time I do this list again next year, but he's not there right now. For Atlanta, it is Bijan Robinson. I don't think Drake London is that guy. I don't think Kyle Pitts is that guy. I don't see anyone on that defense that could be that guy. And honestly, I don't even think the quarterback is that guy. But I think Bijan on almost any other team significantly improves that running back room. And if you take him away from this team, yes, they have Algier, but it loses a very important dynamic to this football team. And I still think Bijan is a difference maker. Now, I will say, if this year doesn't really go all that well, it might move into honorable mention category. But for now, he is absolutely still that. The Baltimore Ravens have three. The first one's the reigning MVP. That one should be obvious. It's Lamar Jackson. I know a lot of teams went out of their way to say that they weren't going to pick up Lamar Jackson as a free agent. And that was insane. But I think a lot of teams, probably like 29, 30 teams in the NFL would take this guy as their quarterback today. On the defensive side of the football, Roquan Smith, I think, is still someone who absolutely makes a difference on the defensive side. And Kyle Hamilton turned himself into legitimately one of the best players in the National Football League last year. And so those are two guys on the defense that really do make a difference and would be a significant upgrade to any team they were on. The Buffalo Bills are next. Josh Allen is still that. I think that Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the National Football League, and I think you put him on almost anyone. Almost any team, basically any team but like the Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's a significant needle move, I think. On defense, Ed Oliver absolutely changes the dynamic of things up front with how he is able to disrupt both the pass game and the running game. And Matt Milano, we got a clear example of it last year. He went down with an injury, a few others as well, but this defense fell apart. And now this year, he is coming into the season banged up and will not be playing. And it makes a significant difference on this defense as well. So I think that those are some obvious ones, I would say, on the defensive side of the ball. Carolina, none. Honorable mention to Bryce Young, who I think might still be able to get there, but is probably a couple years away from being there. The Chicago Bears, they have two. DJ Moore, I think, is a game changer to any receiver room. That does not mean he is the best wide receiver in the NFL, but he is just so good at everything that he could fit into every locker room and make a difference. And on this Bears team, there's, oh, well, it's Keenan Allen and it's Roma Dunze, and all of that. But I still think DJ Moore is the best wide receiver this team has. On defense, it's Montez Sweat. This was a very bad defense last year, and he upgraded them to just a bad defense when he came in. I think their EPA went from 31st to 24th, I believe. I might have those stats wrong. Listen for the NFC preview coming up tomorrow, and maybe you'll hear it. But his ability to get to the quarterback is just remarkable, and I think does really alter things on a defense. And honorable mention to Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be a game changer, but haven't seen it yet. So, like, as early as next year, this guy could be on this list. For Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. Fairly obvious that the difference in the offense from one year to the next. Jamar Chase, which is why the contract situation is as absurd as it might be, but he legitimately one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the National Football League. And defensively, Trey Hendrickson. Maybe not as recognized as some other ones, but still elite level pass rusher, great disruptor, and someone who makes a difference on the defensive side of the ball. For Cleveland, no surprise, it's 3 guys on defense. The first is obvious. It's Myles Garrett, one of the top 2 or 3 defensive players in the National Football League, and is just an absolute absurd beast. And he would be a difference maker on a field that he was the only one on. He is that good defensively. But also, I do think you need to give credit to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and Denzel Ward. Again, a couple of other guys who really able to affect so many aspects on the football field and on the defensive side of the football field that it really does slow things down for oppositions, and it led Cleveland to be, at times, looking like a potential historically good defense a season ago. The Dallas Cowboys, they only have 2, CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. Lamb is, I think, without a doubt, one of the most talented wide receivers in all of football, and again, just kind of does everything very well, and that allows this team to do what they do with him offensively. And on defense, Micah Parsons just covers so much ground. Again, one of the top 2 or 3 defensive players in the NFL at any time, and it's just the absolute central focus of this team. You will notice not on this list is Dak Prescott. I still think good quarterback, but I don't think if he left this team and you brought in replacement level, that it takes that much of a dip. And secondly, like, I don't know how many teams that you put him on and there is a real shift that is made. And I think if there is, it more speaks to the quality of quarterback that was there, not necessarily the quality that Dak Prescott has. The Denver Broncos have 1, Patrick Surtain. He did take a bit of a step back last year, but was still very good and has a couple of years of being very, very good. So if this defense is going to do anything this year, he is going to be at the front of it, but I still think that he makes a difference on this defense. For Detroit, I have 3. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown at receiver. He is a safety blanket for every quarterback who plays with him, and his ability to turn short passes into long passes is really quite incredible. Jahmyr Gibbs, he has game-changing ability, and we are only going to see that magnified here in year 2. And on the defensive side, DJ Reader is just such a force defensively. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. And sorry, I missed one. Aiden Hutchinson as well on the defensive side. I don't know how I didn't put him there, but I didn't. So that's my bad. But he absolutely deserves to be on this list. And just so I know for next year, we will put him there. Okay, up next, the Green Bay Packers. They were an interesting team because of how it's kind of laid out there. So the difference makers I had are actually, weirdly enough, on the defensive side of the football, with Jair Alexander and Xavier McKinney. Those are 2 guys who need this team to, or this team needs to really be those difference makers defensively. And I think they legitimately are. Now, with how bad this defense is, one could argue how much of a difference do they make, but I do think that these are 2 complete difference makers. Honorable mention to Jordan Love. We've only kind of seen it once, and it was only really for half of the season. And so that does kind of, I think, limit him in this, but I do expect he will be on this list next year. And I will say any of their receivers for honorable mention, because all of them have the potential that if they were on their own would kind of feel like a game breaker. But it is just because that they are in this group that it does kind of, it seems to not let one shine, but all of them together make a huge difference, I think, in these games. The Houston Texans, there's 4. CJ Stroud absolutely came in, changed the entire outlook of this franchise, and so has to be on this list. But along with that is Nico Collins. He turned into a difference-making receiver last year for Houston and really was able to help this offense feel like an elite one at times. Laramie Tunsil giving CJ Stroud the protection that he needs to be able to go out and do the damn thing. And Danielle Hunter is someone who, again, you have to game plan around defensively. Or offensively, you have to game plan around him. You know what I mean? He is certainly that guy who can go out and really make those big plays and make a real, again, difference on the defensive side of the football. For Indianapolis, it's 2. I do have Michael Pittman on here. Again, I just think his versatility makes him such a reliable force as a receiver, and that allows him and Indianapolis to continue to do what they do offensively. And Jonathan Taylor, I think he has that game-breaking ability as a running back, and I think he's one of the just legitimately most talented players in the league. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, I still have Trevor Lawrence, and you will hear my thoughts on them in whole tomorrow when we go over this team, but I do think that this is a guy who, when healthy, makes all the difference on a football team and can legitimately be still, maybe not at the level that we thought he was going to be, but he can still be a real difference maker and a game changer on an offense. And I have Josh Hines Allen. You probably noticed me typing there. I was absolutely Googling because I know he did change his name and I kept forgetting it and want to get it right on this one. But what we saw the last couple of seasons, that just like right in the middle of that defense is this guy. And he, again, his ability to get to the passer is something that really can alter offensive game plans. The Kansas City Chiefs have a bunch. Patrick Mahomes, it's obvious. He's the best quarterback and probably the most talented most talented quarterback I've ever seen in my life. Travis Kelce, still as a tight end, like you see when he really ramps it up, how much this offense changes when you get into December and January. Chris Jones last year was an absolute monster, and him having the season that he had helped turn this defense into one of the best in the league. And so for that, he you put him on basically any other team, and their defense improves immediately. And then a couple of guys who helped this defense improve immediately last year, Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis. Both guys came in and made immediate impacts on this football team, and that continued all season long. And again, I think you put them on almost any other team in the league, and it, I think, dramatically improves that defense. On to the Vegas Raiders. Max Crosby and Devontae Adams are the guys there. Crosby, he is a difference maker. They had it on the ringer that he has, over the last few years, has played like almost 400 more snaps than any other defensive lineman. Like he is just constantly out there. He is constantly getting after the quarterback, and he himself really, I think, elevated so many players on what is a pretty average Raiders defense. For him to be able to go out and allow them to do some of the things they did defensively, I'm interested to see what Wilkins does this year in the middle and that kind of dynamic they have. But those are, like, Max Crosby is probably a top 5 edge rusher in this league. And Devontae Adams, we have found the one offense he can't make a huge difference on, but you put him on almost any team in the league, and it turns that into an elite level offense. He is that good. The LA Chargers are next. I still have Justin Herbert in this spot. You saw what it looked like without him last year. I do need to see like that elite level season from him soon. It probably won't be this year given the talent around him, but I do need to see that elite level from him soon. And on the defensive side, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Both guys a little bit banged up. For Bosa, Mack a little bit long in the tooth, but Mack was still stellar last year and 2 of the best pass rushers in the league. The Rams now only have 1, and it's Cooper Kupp. I need to see it a little bit more from Puka Nacua, and I need to see it a little bit more from Kyron Williams. But Cooper Kupp, when he comes into this offense, a whole new world opens up for Matthew Stafford or anyone else who might be playing quarterback. And I think, again, you put him on any other receiving core in the league, and it makes a huge impact. For Miami, I have 3. Tyreek Hill. What he has done to unlock so much of this offense can't be overstated. Don't like him as a human being, but from a footballing standpoint, my word. Jalen Ramsey is the other one, as still, I think, a lockdown corner in this league, and someone who, like, with how big the passing attack has been in the NFL, for him to still be that guy, losing a step for sure, but he is still that guy, is really impressive. And Bradley Chubb, like you saw how this defense fell off last year with his injury, and you see how people are expecting it to continue to fall off this year with him being out. Minnesota, it's Justin Jefferson. He's the best wide receiver in the league. I don't think you need to say a whole lot around that. For New England, it's none, and quite frankly, no even honorable mention. I think it'll take Drake May a couple of years to get onto this list. Maybe Gonzalez, the kid who they drafted in the first round last year, who only played about a quarter of the games, but he seemed really good. If he can have a full season of that, then for sure. But yeah, there's not a whole lot there out in New England. For New Orleans, it's one, and it's Tyrann Mathieu, and this one, it could be coming to an end with him on this list, but I think still one of the better safeties in the league, and him patrolling back there helps out what is actually a pretty good defense in New Orleans. For the Giants, it's two, and they're both on the both on the defensive side. Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. Burns single-handedly was a game wrecker for Carolina last year. And Thibodeau didn't get to the quarterback as much as you would like, but when he gets there, it is a sack. Like when he gets there, he really gets there. And so I think both of those guys, again, high to elite level talents who disrupt offenses continuously. The Jets have three, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson. A couple other guys who might be on here, if not for injury issues, like Smith on the offensive line or whatever. But Gardner, probably the best lockdown corner in the league. Breece Hall, one of the most talented running backs in the league. And Garrett Wilson, I think this year, works into the most talented receiver in the league conversation. And so again, all those guys, gigantic difference makers. For Philadelphia, it is Jalen Hurts. I think even with a down year last year, I think he is still that guy and still someone who can elevate. But you saw the real impact A.J. Brown makes in turning this offense from good to real good. And he would do that in almost every receiver room. And Saquon Barkley, I think still an elite talent at running back and is still someone who will, I think, cause some real problems for defenses this year. The Pittsburgh Steelers have three, all of them on the defensive side. TJ Watt, he went down with an injury last year and the team couldn't do a fucking thing defensively. Patrick Queen, I think him leaving Baltimore is going to leave a huge hole for the Ravens, and I think him coming over here helps to add some more high-level talent to Pittsburgh. So already a good defense, I think, gets even better with Patrick Queen out there. And Minkah Fitzpatrick is still one of the best safeties and one of the best defensive backs in the league. Honorable mention to George Pickens. He hasn't had the quarterbacks around him to really make that difference yet, but I still think talent-wise, he elevates the receiver room that he is in. For San Francisco, and this is why we put them as the most talented team in the league, it's like 8. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner. CMC turned this offense from very good to elite very quickly. Deebo Samuel, what he can do after the catch, I still think is criminally underrated in terms of a receiver because people just assume he is going to fall off at some point. Brandon Ayuk, you saw all the teams that were falling over themselves to try to get him into their room. George Kittle, I think, still is that guy at tight end. Trent Williams is still 100% that guy on the offensive line, and Bosa and Werner for the chaos they cause on the defensive side. Werner might legitimately be one of the best defensive players in the league as well. Coming down to it here, the last couple. Seattle, it's DK Metcalf. I still think he is a difference maker on offense. I don't have any on defense, but 2 honorable mentions. I think with a better defensive coordinator this year, Devin Witherspoon really has a chance to turn into one of the better defensive players in the league. And Byron Murphy, a rookie. I think he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I think he has a real opportunity to be that dude defensively here for Seattle. Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, like all he does is just rolls out of bed and gets 1,000 yards receiving. Antoine Winfield Jr. is just such a rock in this secondary, and Vita Vea is a one-man run-stopping unit, and I mean unit. And he is a guy who would greatly impact any defense he was on. For the Titans, I still have DeAndre Hopkins. I still think this is a guy who goes out and really makes a difference offensively, and I think he's going to make a huge difference for what Tennessee is going to try to do with Will Levis this year. And lastly, Washington, ending with a flourish, none. Honor mention to Jaden Daniels. We just haven't seen it. We're assuming he's going to be, but we just haven't seen it. But offensively, defensively, there isn't that guy on there. So there you go. 32 teams. Who makes a difference on all of these teams? Now you know as we get ready for the start of the season. That's going to do it for the show. Like I said, tomorrow, AFC win total NFC win totals, plus Super Bowl picks. We're also going to start with the NHL previews coming up. And then Thursday, I'm going to compile every NFL preview that we have done so far into one mega cast. And so if you want one more cram session before we get into the NFL season, that's going to be your one coming up on Thursday. And then we're going to have all the reaction on Friday and all of that coming out. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Wherever you are consuming this, make sure you subscribe. If you are watching, make sure you like it. If you're listening, make sure that you review it. Follow me on social media at Primetime Klein, and I'll talk to all of you later. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.